Couple of accepted, let's DV.
All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Can I please have everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming to the City Council meeting Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. Moving on here, we need approval of the agenda for tonight. City Administrator Evans, is there anything that needs to be?
I have no amendments for tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Anybody else? All right.
I'll make a motion to approve of the agenda.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Public hearings, no public hearings. Move on to the consent agenda tonight. Our consent agenda, there are 3 items. Approval of the minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 11th, 2025. Approval of claims to be paid. And approval of the craft fair special event permit by Regina Comfort. So we need an approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on here, we're gonna move on to the public comment. Anybody has any comments, petitions, requests, or communications from the general public? Please keep it to a 3-minute time limit. And I'm assuming we're all here for the same item. If not, that's fine, but we'll just start right there. Your hand up. If you can come up to the podium, please state your name, address, and your comment or request.
My name is Kathy Menches. I live out in Cordova area. Is that what you all needed? What I have in front of me are letters from people who are library users. And they say, a town library was just as important to us as a grocery store when we chose a town to relocate to. The library could sure use more space. If there is 2 or 3 people looking for a book to check out, we are in each other's way. It is a warm and welcoming space, and I'm always greeted with a smile. I particularly enjoy the audio CD section and the large print books, and I would like to see a larger selection in each area, which sadly is not possible due to lack of space. Limited space means limited books, resources, which drives the need to request materials from other libraries within the system, thus a waiting period. The need to request items means learning isn't always just one library stop away. It provides a connection to schools, to businesses, and to any individual who chooses to walk through the doors. So why not provide the means to draw more people in? Why not expand the support our library brings to the community? Why not grow the strength of learning that our library provides? Reading books with young kids helps them develop so many skills, helps their imagination grow, helps emotional development, social skills, bonding, improves cognitive development, and helps them learn new concepts and experiences. We love that we can use the library to encourage the kids to want to read and to help keep them learning even in the summer hours. Living in a small town, it is amazing to see all the different free programs the library offers for kids to do. Keeping them busy keeps them out of trouble. It's a great spot for kids to meet new friends, to learn new skills, try something they haven't tried before. Use their imagination as they explore the new toys and activities they have out for the kids. If you don't have the internet or a printer, you can go there and they have the resources for you to be able to use these things. Because I'm on a limited budget, I do not have access to the internet at my home, nor has it come to my area. Thus, I need to come to the library to read my email, send email, order interlibrary books and DVDs for the next weeks, research various things on the internet, balance my checkbook with the banking portal, visit with others who come to the library for the many of the same things. Let's see, what else do I have? A larger space would mean more books for my child's growing mind to read, more activities for him to perform, such as board games we don't have at home, or a microscope we can't afford. My child is not in daycare, which means he misses out on a lot of socializing, but we get to meet new children when we come to the public library. We live in the country, which means I won't waste my time coming to town just for the library. In general, I also run errands like shop at the grocery store, the hardware store, the liquor store. I also visit the bank or go out to the feed co-op or Napa. I would still do these things if there wasn't a public library here, but much less frequently because Mankato, St. Peter, New Prague has more shopping opportunities and much larger public libraries with more items and activities to choose from. We want to bring people to town, not direct them to other towns, unless we want our town to die. It really suffered when the high school moved to Montgomery. Let's not suffer anymore, but instead make it more appealing with a larger public library. If you choose to expand, just think of all the things that could draw new people to our town. If you choose not to expand our current location, but would rather have the space for city use, please consider building a new public library building with all the proper necessities, such as handicap accessible, more parking, and so forth.
Thank you, Kathy. Could you pass those, can we have those letters and pass them down here? as well
Sure.
For us, please?
There are 4 of them that are the same because that was copied that way.
Okay, no, perfect, thank you so much, I appreciate
So
it.
there you are.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Right.
Kathy, what was the spelling on your last name?
Mentjes.
Thank you.
And one of those letters was mine.
Thank you. Anybody else, is there anybody else that would like to speak for the public comment here?
We did ask people to leave their put on an address. We didn't ask them for their name, just ask them for an address. So those are some of the others.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, please come up to the podium, and again, state your name and address.
Betty Traxler, I'm a lifelong resident of Lee Center community, and I've had the privilege of serving on the Waseca-Leesore County Library Board for the last 7 years. And in that time, there's been phenomenal growth for this particular library, going from about 5th place for how many materials we check out, how many people come through our doors, what kinds of programs we offer. And it's just been phenomenal. I think you'll get some of that information if you haven't gotten that already for the numbers. And so I'm just here talking in a way to positively promote what we can do with these advancing numbers. And I'm very proud of our library and Lee Center and what they've done just in my 7 years of working on that board. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Betty. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Come on. State your name and your address.
Lois Brown, 580 North Waterville Avenue. I read a lot. I'm sure I check out at least 1.5 things on average every week. And I've been in town here 11 years. I think I read just nonfiction. I think in the first 2 years I had every nonfiction book in the whole library read that I had any interest in whatsoever. And I still use the library a lot for bringing items in, but then there's always a delay. We used to be able to have 10 checked out at a time, and now it's 5, so I'm without something to read a lot of the time, and I do like to read every day. So.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rose. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak? No? Okay. So thank you all for your public comments. They will be taken into consideration when we talk about this. There will be a presentation given here shortly by Stacy Linneman, who's here tonight, about this project, as possible project as well. All right. So we're going to close the public comment period time and have Stacy come up and give her presentation for us, please.
Thank you so much to Mayor, City Council members
Thank you,
for
Stacy, for coming
including
in here and
us.
presenting for us all.
For including us in your meeting today. My name is Stacy Lieneman. I am the director at Waseca-LeSueur Regional Library System. Lynn Selly, back here, is the branch supervisor here at LeCenter Public Library. And we've come here today because an opportunity has arisen due to the police moving out of the building. A few years ago, we did approach Dan about expanding the space, either building a new building, moving into an existing building, and with this opportunity of the police moving out of the building, it seemed like this is a real feasible opportunity for us to expand our space. As you may know, we have a joint powers agreement with the City of LeCenter, which details that the city provides the building, the utilities, and its maintenance, while the Waseca-LeSueur Regional Library System provides the services, collection, programming, staff. In a nutshell, the city provides the building and we provide what fills it. And the LeCenter Public Library is in need of more space. We are bursting at the seams. You can see right here from the handout I provided
Thank you.
that the American Library Association's guidelines for determining minimum space requirements recommends that a building holding 5,000 to 9,999 items to have 3,500 square feet. And we have 1,400 square feet here in this building. We are unable to include the collection that this community deserves. We are so jam-packed for space that we can't house everything properly in our collection. We need more space for our large print collection. LeCenter patrons check out more than double what Montgomery checks out in large print. We're unable to include many adventure packs at this location as we don't have the space to that we could clear to put them on. Adventure packs are camping gear, tools, lawn games, telescopes, crafting equipment, etc. That community members can check out and use. They can try out new hobbies or use them for one-time reads. They're very popular at other locations. We also have no room for a board game collection, even though these collections are popular, again, at other libraries. We are not ADA accessible. A wheelchair cannot move around what we have in the space. We also send kids unsupervised to these bathrooms on the other side of the building. We'd strongly prefer to have better eyes on what's happening in our building so nothing would happen to a child. We don't have enough space to comfortably have people hang out. Our libraries are used continually for events, and while the city generously lets us use this space to hold events, we also hold events like book clubs, cooking and craft events, and STEM events for kids, where a smaller space with more comfortable, intimate seating arrangements would work better. And parents would also like to read in the space to their children without being in the center of all of the action. If you look at the next page, you'll see one of the events we recently held where we had a kindergarten card party to encourage kindergartners to get library cards and to use our collection. And you can see it's pretty jam-packed. And you are welcome to come in and tour our library just to see how cozy it is. You have a real asset here with Lynn Selly. Her work has been recognized with an award by the Minnesota Library Association. She's been working here almost 12 years and has increased circulation and event attendance. If you go back to the first page, sorry, I'm flipping
No,
back
that's
and
fine,
forth.
we can do whatever you need.
You can see at the very top, the increased use over the past 10 years is very impressive, what she has done here. And she continues to increase use. This year, LeCenter's circulation is up by 22% over last year's first 2 months already. Lynn is continually asked by patrons if the library is going to get a new building or if an expansion project is in the works. They want this to happen. In this handout, I have four main goals of what we would like to do with this space. To create a space that the community takes pride in, to remove barriers to using the library, making the library more accessible and allow for a more spacious experience, to increase square footage in order to have a larger collection, and to create more welcoming and appealing spaces. So we kind of went through and made a wish list of things we would like to see, whether in this space or a new building. I won't go over the details, but you can feel free to read through them. And then on the second page, you can see just kind of how well our library is being used. And many people may be under the impression that ebooks and e-audiobooks are the core of the modern library user's experience. It is not the case. In LeCenter, it makes only 26% of our circulation. At the bottom, you'll see the branch breakdown of each of our 9 libraries, how many items are in the collection, the number of events, the event attendance, patron visits, circulation, open hours per week, population capacity, and the state of Minnesota asks us to pull together the population of the surrounding townships and have determined that Lexington, Cordova, Cleveland, Washington townships, and the city of Cleveland are to be added to the city of LeCenter's population capacity, which is how you might look at that and say, LeCenter doesn't have a population of 6,000. And then the square footage. If you look at, compare Montgomery and LeCenter, which just the city populations are pretty close in size, the difference in size of square footage is quite stark. But LeCenter is keeping pretty close in terms of event attendance and surpasses them in patron visits. And event attendance. So LeCenter is a busy, hopping library, and they are only open half as many hours as Montgomery. So all of the spaciousness that the Montgomery has is condensed into the hours as well as the space limitations. So we really are seeking an expansion, and we hope that this can move forward.
With this, and I love the comments brought out here, and I'm a teacher. We want to see kids grow. We want to see a community grow as well. Lynn has been amazing here. You do a great job. My kids and my wife are in here all the time. The programs in the summers are awesome. They do get a chance to do new skills, and with the use of technology through some people in the community don't have it here, which is really awesome. Larger spaces might be difficult here as well. But there was an aspect of this that we were under the impression of as well, is that you knew that what funding was out there for this as well, because this is going to would be a substantial project financially for the city, and for our city that we've had a huge increase in our tax last year. I mean, this would be a big tackle for the community as well. So we, as a city, this is coming from me, I haven't talked with anybody here about it, but coming from the city, from my point of view, is we'd love to be a part of this. We want to be a part of it, but funding the whole portion of it, I don't know if that's feasible for the city. Now, if there's ways to get funding, like I believe City Administrator Evans and you talked about with helping out with the architect stuff and getting,
Winseth?
with having Woodseth go through and look and help design it and getting funding, finding funding to help do the project, I would assume, and I can't speak for anybody else here, that we'd be right for it. But right now, I mean, just coming up with, say, $300,000 to redo everything might be sort of tough right now. So if there's funding out there, I mean, that would be great to know. And if anybody else wants to comment, City Administrator Evans.
Mayor, we might as well move on right to that proposal, and we can hash that out.
Okay.
If you want to. We don't have any new business to discuss, so Stacey, if you want to stay right there, we can go ahead and hash out this proposal.
So here under new business, we have a review of Woodseth's design service proposal for the Lee Center library renovation. And in here, they stated, put some items in here that you have listed up there as well. Your meeting space, quiet rooms, the things to be compliant as well. For us to get just basically an as-built schematics design would cost us, the city right now, $5,000. And I'm not opposed of approving that and going forward to seeing what kind of design they can give for us. That's me. But we really need to know where funding may come from for us to use the city's money to go towards that, if that makes sense.
There are absolutely some grants that you get from the state, that would help move this forward. There's a matching grant that is done every year. I believe the max is $500,000. And with the fact that this building isn't ADA accessible, it would help our chances in securing that grant. We've received that grant at Waseca Public Library when we did a renovation there about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
How did the city of Waseca come up with their match portion of the grant? Do you remember that funding mechanism?
This was before I stepped in as director, and they had approved a two-piece renovation. So they had one part that was increasing the space into some unused space in the building, and then they did a second phase, which was the entry space, bathrooms, meeting room. They agreed to fund everything and then asked me to look for grants, and we were able to secure that library construction grant.
But only for 50% of the project though, correct?
Of the second phase.
Of the second phase?
Mhm.
So do you recall the funding mechanism that the city used?
The city used it
Put up their
in their
own
budget.
funds.
Mhm.
So right now, there's, with what's projected out with, we just, council approved last month the ordering of a dump truck. And part of that is gonna be out of our capital improvement fund. And the ask here tonight is to have the city, to my understanding, is to approve of having Woodseth go ahead with what they're calling an as-built and schematic design for $5,000. And what that's going to do is kind of scope, reaching out to contractors and getting some preliminary designs done to see what the total estimated project cost there is. And when I was talking to Dana with Woodseth, we were kind of somewhere around the vicinity of $350,000. for total project costs. And like the mayor indicated, we don't have any way to fund that now, and we don't have any debt dropping off in the near future to look for other avenues to fund those types of projects. This isn't under Chapter 429 that we do for streets and have an assessment, but there are different ways that the city, through state statute, is allowed to fund and then, sort of take bond money on that, but then, pay the 20-year payments on that. So even if we did have the idea of having a 50% grant, which is great, that still gives us $175,000 that the city has got to come up with. So I think tonight the ask would be, is it feasible for the council to vote on spending the initial $5,000, and then that will give us the schematic design, kind of some flow of how you and staff would want this to look. And then from there, the WIDSAF, as part of their package, would then reach out to contractors, have them come in, view it, go over what the needs are, and put together a pretty detailed construction package. And then from there, that would tell us where we at with pricing, and then also from there, you're never gonna get funded if you don't have a plan. You always have to have a plan in place, and that's something we've always been talking about, is you gotta have a plan set in place. So that's kind of the ask tonight, from my understanding, and then, this is, these are gonna be several continuing conversations. First, if we agree to the $5,000, if you guys agree to that, and then also, if it's there and getting the construction documents, how is this gonna get paid for and funded? So that's really the ask tonight. The investment tonight is for the $5,000 schematic design and as-built to get WIDSAF to come in here, and then that would shape up the future.
What is the 20,000 for?
So the 20,000 is based on either a 5 to 6% construction cost. So how an architectural design firm works is they'll charge you a percentage of the construction cost. So he's kind of factoring in some numbers between the 300 and 400,000 for what the cost is going to be. So then that ultimate cost would be that 20,000. Now you've already paid for 5,000 if you go
Yep.
forward with this, so that'll net down from there. But that's still the $20,000 total if the project moves forward.
So
And
it's more-
sometimes depending on, a lot of times in different grant approval processes, there's the planning phase of a grant, where you can actually seek smaller funds to go after the planning and architectural design of different elements. I don't know if there's any available for a library, but I know for other planning things with streets and whatnot, there's those grant-specific things that talk about just the design phase of it. So that's what that is.
Has anybody even considered asking private citizens to help with this project? My God, there's people out there who support this library and would be happy to if somebody's willing to spearhead the whole project. The Carl and Verna Schmidt Foundation has lots of money for these kind of projects. There's other local foundations and regional foundations. There's money if somebody's willing to spearhead it. I mean, I hope you're not gonna say no just because nobody's started that process for $5,000. The city, I think, we as taxpayers have put plenty of money into this city, that we should be able and be entitled to have this project started.
Now, with that being said, though, I mean, who's gonna spearhead that then? I mean,
We have.
City Administrator Evans has a lot more stuff that I know that we have in plans that we need to work on as well for the city.
You'd made mention, are you proficient enough to write grants and
Yes.
work on that to do that? Yeah, I mean,
We've been very successful with that, and we also have a Friends of the LeCenter Public Library group. This group is made for fundraising, advocating, and volunteering for the library. And so this would be a project perfect for them.
And,
But like you said, we're not gonna go raise money until there's a plan.
Yeah.
Well, 100%, and you have to have a plan to
Obviously.
do anything,
Yeah.
yeah.
and well, here's the thing, I know some of them are here tonight, and they help out a lot, and you say they are they, will they help with that?
Yes, and staff would as well, yes. Mhm.
And also,
Kathy, who spoke earlier, is the president of the Friends currently.
yeah, I think it's gonna be a joint effort, and at the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about how much a construction cost would get, and you're looking at $5,000 to do an initial design to get the ball rolling, I think it's definitely a good investment. We just need to firm up, who's putting the priority on what to kind of spearhead this, like Anita pointed out, and push forward. I think it's gonna be a joint effort. And this is the first time that, this has even been talked about since that space has become available. And it all starts tonight, and I think this is reasonable, to kind of get the ball rolling and to push this further. It's a pretty small investment as far as getting a design and construction documents going.
It would give us some sort of idea as to what the total cost is, and then whether we can even do it or not.
Yeah, because without them looking at it, and you never know what it's gonna be. It could be anywhere from $250 to $750,
A lot of infrastructure work that has to be done, definitely, but I think it's a small
And what you get
to
to,
start with.
Libraries
Right,
cost
we gotta-
millions of dollars if you start from scratch. This is a small project for the amount of people that use this library.
And I know there's a ton of people that use the library. I've been in there this room's been packed, and it's not even in the library.
Can you call on Lois?
Sorry, I
Well,
thought he was gonna say something.
we evidently have 1,400 square feet. Now, how much are we gonna end up with when this is all done?
Well, that's the other thing we gotta look at, and that's part of what the whole design would help out with.
You
because
don't have any idea? I mean, it really seems like that space isn't gonna add actually a lot, to me. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that it's gonna,
Well, and that, I don't know either.
Lynn, right in here, how far back was your little nook go, probably?
As far as the hallway, or?
Where your back wall is?
Currently.
I would say, well, up there, maybe here.
I was just saying there.
Like the TV.
Because you're probably gonna add on the rest of this room, because you're gonna have to leave room for the furnace room and all access to all
Yeah,
that.
the bay and the current PD, or the old PD.
Right, but you'd still have to leave like a hallway right in between there, wouldn't you, to access the furnace? So a little past where, right about the wall.
well, how much do you think that would be then? How much would it add? I mean, nobody's really measured it yet?
No, this is the first time we're
It's been
talking
brought up
about it.
publicly.
This is the first time that we've
Well, I mean,
brought
you
it
take
up.
a tape measure and, get an idea of how much we're gonna add.
No,
Well,
I didn't do that. I think, like the mayor indicated, that's gonna be a lot of your
there-
initial steps.
Because we don't know
and
how
having
far,
to do it.
with the construction that goes on over there, there's utilities in there. We don't know if they gotta move those, or if how far they gotta build from that. We don't know a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, but, I
So-
mean, if we're not gonna add much,
And again, we won't know that until it's done, or until not, it's
Till-
done.
till this-
Until
The design,
The
Until
design
the
is done.
schematic design is done.
that's what they
Because
measure
it's
up.
gonna
the-
take input from what they wanna see done for a space that's gonna drive this initial process. Yes, it's a city building, but I'm not gonna say this should go here, this should go there. That's not these are your experts that are saying in a functional use of a library, so I would go to them and say, how do you want the space to look?
And with the space that is available there, if it was to go through, would it be feasible? Is it that enough? Or is it, no sense in wasting the time if that's not gonna be enough? That's what I'm looking at. If you only have, picking up 400 square feet, is that really gonna do you a lot?
And this is what we have.
So, right, and gotta find out, like I say, find out, measure, see what there is, and I think it's a waste to put anything into it if it's not gonna gain what we want, or what you want.
But we had a walkthrough and it seemed pretty, with Widseth, and it seemed pretty feasible for mapping it out with the space that was gonna be available. Unless you've got a different perspective on it, if you thought it wasn't gonna be worth it.
I agree. When we looked at some of the other spaces in town and thinking about a new building and trying to fund an entirely new building, this seemed the more practical option for us.
So, you spend money for an as-built, but then, given that it's not in a budget at the moment, those prices are gonna continue to change. And I'm not exactly sure when it would start, because you obviously have to have funds to start. Maybe you know more.
I'm not following what you're saying, as far as getting the 5,000 to do the as-built and the schematic design?
Well, you
No,
get,
but
obviously,
they're gonna give you a price on the now
Oh,
Right.
sure,
Versus
yeah.
next, yeah.
yeah,
versus if we gotta wait.
which is
a little
gonna continue to increase.
Yeah, and then there's inflators that a lot of construction documents build in, that when you start asking for money, they know that it's,
And we're never gonna know if we don't have the $5,000
Can we get
design done.
in-kind contributions?
as far
Like for
as,
building, like for people that can help, or do you
What
have
would
to
be-
go with the contractor?
I would say it would depend on what elements that maybe would,
Because then
Easier for people to
the
do.
contractors may not back the work then if they don't have everything into it.
if you're talking to me like painting or maybe something like that, I could, again, that would be on the contractor, but that would be something that would be, that wouldn't necessarily be a liability for the city, and then that could be an in-kind service that could be donated, absolutely.
There are lots of ways to fund it if we can get started.
So the ask tonight is just to move ahead with this proposal and to do the $5,000 initial as-built and schematic design concept.
Let me ask one question. This area here that, in the back of this wall there, is that available?
This
there's
is a pump
Well, back
right
there.
here, or a well right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like where the emergency.
And then we did spend a couple years ago, I don't even know the amount, was it $20,000 to help? And this was to help with the library, try to give them a little space, a little workroom in the back as well.
Oh,
to
yeah, we had
help.
a little bit of a flood back there, so we had an insurance claim to get.
And then we put money into that to help, try to give a little bit more space. to the Library, I know it's a little out of the way, but we tried to work with them as well with that.
You talk about the room way back
Yep.
there?
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that wasn't the be-all and end-all, but we tried
You
to,
can use that room?
Yeah, that's always been afforded to the
Yep.
library.
Yep.
I don't think anybody knows that.
Sure.
Well, sorry, I didn't. So, what we need now is we need a motion to approve the review of Witset's design service proposal for the Lee Center Library renovation.
I make a motion to approve the $5,000 schematic design.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now, hope, please, I'd love to see it, but we need to find the monies too, okay? That's,
And we won't know until we get
yep,
everything and
But that could get them
Prices
start
and
working on
grants.
stuff, see
Yeah.
what, that could get you started on seeing what kind of funding you could get out there. Start it now, and not saying it's 100% gonna happen, but by us doing this $5,000, go out and spearhead your people that can try raising and see what you're looking at for money-wise. That'd make a big difference.
thank you, everybody, I appreciate it. It was a great conversation here. Moving on to new business, letter B, approval of amendment to resolution 2025A, annual appointments and designations by adding Jason Holm to the Planning and Zoning Commission. At the beginning of the year, when we approved this, we had a vacancy there. Jason Holm turned in documentation stating that he would like to step into that position. So we need to make an amendment to this.
I make a motion for approval of resolution 2025A.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We'll be good there. All right, moving on to new business. Letter C. We have approval, we need an approval of resolution 2025B, a resolution to approve a roadway resurfacing quote by means of direct negotiations.
I make a motion to
B.
approve the resolution 2025B.
Second.
Let me talk first.
I thought you completed it.
Sorry.
My bad.
You're good. So this is a resolution, these upgrades to the streets are put into our budget. And we had those approved at our budget meeting. Does this stay within our means?
Yeah, this is just right out of the line item for road maintenance and repair.
Okay.
We just typically go out for 2 quotes on this, and then WW Blacktop came in with the best quote, and if we paired the 2 roadways together, us and prior council had kind of indicated for the next kind of mill and overlay roads, we can get a $3,300 reduction. So that would put the cost at that less than $172,000. So that's your lowest quote coming in tonight.
And so the streets that were we're milling it and resurfacing of that the part here, but the streets that we're doing, so people know, is it West and East Solberg Street?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
West Bradshaw
Give
Street.
you a map here.
Yeah.
Yep, so there's West and East Solberg indicated in red, and then there's the chunk of West Bradshaw.
Thank you.
So, now, any other discussion? All right, we need a motion to approve resolution number 2025B.
Motion approved. Sorry, Mayor.
You're good, you're good. We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, next here we have resolution number 2025C. This is a resolution declaring property as surplus and authorizing the sale of the same. Do we need to state what's being, or should we?
If you'd like to, it's just the 3 items there.
We have the 1988 60-inch rough cut mower. And we have a 2003 84-inch finish lawn mower. And a 2003 F-150 two-wheel drive pickup. Is that pickup, was that the one you were driving?
This is one of the older ones.
Older ones, yeah? Okay. Gotcha, all right. We need a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2025C, declaring property surplus, authorized sales.
Second.
We had a,
That's a question on that.
yes, sir.
Where does that get listed for the public to know that that's gonna go up for a public auction, correct?
Goes on mid
Bids?
bid.
Bid.
Min bid?
Yep.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Awesome. All right, next, new business letter E, request approval for the creation of a part-time police administrative assistant position and authorization to begin the recruitment process for qualified candidates. With this, this would give us,
If you'd like me to go over the
Yes,
background, I can
please.
kind of go over this. So,
you and,
everyone saw the memo that went out on Friday when the packet was released. Currently, right now, the City Hall office assistant has, that position has 75% for administrative duties for City Hall and then 25% for administrative duties for the police department. And that's becoming increasingly challenging to juggle both. I've kind of indicated some of those challenges in my memo. But the problem is time management and how you can focus on the ever-growing tasks between our department and also the police department. And it's becoming challenging. So the chief and I have had a couple of conversations about how we can do the most cost-effective way and still getting the needs that he needs met with the police department, and doing NIC codes and entering in information into LETG and doing a lot of the paperwork processing that the police department is increasing. They're increasing their ICRs, they're increasing, blight notifications, and all that stuff takes paper processing. And what that's doing is that's kind of taking away that allocated 25% from the City Hall administrative position. So I think it would be an easier switch is if that gets pulled out and this position of part-time administrative police gets created, and then we can hire out for that, and then that would solely focus on the police department, and that other City Hall administrative position would just be 100% City Hall. And with that, I've got, depending on if this is approved or not, I would have new job descriptions that kind of move a lot of the work around between the deputy clerk and the City Hall administrative assistant, as well as creating that new job position for the police administrative assistant. So that in a nutshell is kind of what we're dealing with.
Would this person or this position office here at City Hall or up at the police department?
They would be up at the police department, and it would be for 10 hours a week. And this has already been budgeted for the police department because they've always paid for that administrative assistant role. This would just be taking that out of the 25% from the City Hall administrative assistant role and putting that in for the police department.
Thank you.
At 10 hours a week, would that be just like a couple of days or every day for 2 hours or something, or?
Mitch might be able to comment more on how he thinks that's gonna work.
Kind of the way we created the job position or description would be, that would be at my discretion, but my goal is 2 hours a day up there. Excuse me?
She asked who you were.
Oh, I'm sorry, not yet a question. So it would just be 2 hours a week or a day sitting up there. The public can come in at that time. We're gonna try to move some of the stuff that Tara does down here up there. We can have the gun permits get processed up there, the criminal records get processed up there. Currently, there's a lot of time spent for me, running from the police department down here to get paperwork, go up there, do my backgrounds. It's just a lot of running around that way. It's not efficient. It's like,
Sure.
it's just plain not efficient. I'm spending more time on the road than I am actually dealing with the issue. But I think it's a minimum or a maximum at this time of 10 hours a week. I think it'd be a huge improvement. It'd free up a lot of my time with more of the administrative assistant duties, and I can focus more on I'm doing a lot of investigations from years ago, and those are kind of getting put on the back burner, and I'm trying to clear out a lot of ICRs that go back all the way to 1999, and I want to focus on getting some of that stuff cleared out.
Now with this, like it says in the memo, we would increase the administrative position to 100% here.
Correct, yep,
And
we
then-
transition from 75 to 100.
And then you would have the new functions that they would,
Yeah, the essential functions would essentially shift, so with going from 75 to 100, some of the core responsibilities that they would go for would be taking over the utility billing component, also managing all of the, communication aspects of the city. That's something, ever since the creation of the Facebook account and, us getting our own website, it's still a learning thing of how can we bring things to the public eye. You mentioned it perfectly. Well, we had that space back there, and we talked about that in a meeting, but if you weren't at that meeting, you don't know about it. So, and I just jotted that down. So it's things of that nature that, hey, what are public services or what are public things? And I'm trying to get that mindset into that position to more effectively communicate on our both website and Facebook. Those are new for the city, especially being able to manage them in-house and then kind of bolstering that up to get the information out there. So that's a lot of what that administrative assistant position would take on, along with the utility billing, and then a lot of the still data requests that comes in. That position still has the knowledge of that police background, and then we still have to do data retention stuff and data requests, for the city. So those are some kind of core functions that we would put back onto that. And another thing too is, things that the city's never really done before is a retention schedule. We've adopted one, but we don't have any electronic means to store data, and we've never really historically thrown any documents away. That's a huge undertaking in and of itself, and redirecting portions of that duty to 100%. That gives us time in the future to start, coming up to snuff with some of those older documents and being able to slowly transition the city to those, those retention things that, we're just really not doing. And then along with kind of shifting those core responsibilities, some of those were from the deputy clerk. Now the deputy clerk would be able to focus on all of human resources duties, onboarding and offboarding, and be responsible for working with all the vendors when it comes to HR. There's a lot of different vendors that currently I'm working with and communicating with on, our EAP plan, our health insurance, our MetLife policies, and they would take over a more active approach on that, and then also take more of an active approach on reconciliation, being more of the treasurer role for a lot of that stuff. So we're just really kind of reappropriating a lot of the roles around to try to free up more time for staff. We're only at a staff of 2 3/4 for city admin stuff. And for example, if you look over at our neighbors in Montgomery, there are about 5 administrative positions. LeSueur's more. And I'm not advocating for that, but at 25% to get to 3 dedicated full-time staff, I think that's a doable goal.
Well, and me personally, you look at, we hired Tara, 8, 9, 10 years ago maybe?
I think
Something like
probably
that.
about 10.
I mean, just since we've been here, that role has evolved a bit, and the position description needed to be redone. Deb's position, I don't think that position description has been redone for.
There's no revised date on it, so I really can't
so we don't
comment
even
on
know.
that,
It could be when she was hired here, so, and she's been here for a while, so things definitely have changed.
And the brass tacks of all this too is the Minnesota legislature, the rate in which they are constantly passing new laws and new restrictions really puts burden on staff time and what we have to do. We had the rollout of ESST, which was a nightmare, and they passed something they didn't know they passed, and they didn't implement it. Cannabis is a little bit better, but we're still going to have our trials with that. We've got paid family medical leave coming up and having to learn the ins and outs of that and administer that. So we're constantly evolving and constantly changing, and I know it's not just us as a city, it's other cities out there too, that it's the state puts a lot of demands on different things that they're requiring from the cities, and that they are going to continue, and they're not going to ask for less. It's only going to be asking for more. So,
Well, and where we're at, we're still trying to play catch up from a while ago. too,
yeah,
so
and that's, our ordinance codification, and, it's a lot, but good progress is being made, but I think just a simple switch to be able to allocate that one position for police needs and then back to City Hall, I think it's gonna greatly improve. And then plus with the remodeling, a lot of that admin assistant position is gonna be first point of contact on the phone. So really kind of taking on that role that you see in other cities for that position. And then soon, when we get into that space, then it's gonna be really good. Permit processing, the way we do permit processing for building permits, it's not really efficient either, and there's easier, more cost-effective ways to do it, just changing some of those parameters around, and again, going on the website, bolstering, do form fillable PDFs, just all little things that those positions can start doing to make things better.
Dan, I have a question. Probably a long question here in a way, but so the 25% was already in the police budget for this. We're having the full-time, so now we have 25% coming from, is that already in, was that in the budget? Or
No,
just
that would be an
moved
unbudgeted item.
around? Budgeted?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So the ask is is if we want to create this and if we feel that that's a good idea to move forward. If not, then I would say that items F, G, and H just could be tabled, because then that's all, those job descriptions are dependent on the creation of this position. Everything's kind of working together on this one.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the creation of the part-time police administrative assistant position.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, as we move on to F here, we have the approval of the part-time police administrative assistant job description. It's on pages 42.
So I'll preface these next three, creation of this one, so this one's new, but then the administrative assistant, deputy clerk assistant, these were all combinations of different job descriptions from other communities, and then these job descriptions have gone over to the Council of Governments for more refinement, and then determine grading levels for this position. So this position, as I kind of indicated in my memo, was going to be a step 7 with our scale, which makes it a lot easier in starting anybody. So that's what this classification is. And then there was no class change or grade change for the administrative assistant nor for the deputy clerk, because the essential functions kind of all slid around a little bit. So there was no recommendation from the Council of Governments for a grade change on that. So by and large, this is the police admin role, and kind of what Mitch indicated on the essential functions would kind of just be everything under the sun as far as it goes for administrative work for the police department. Much of what was getting done now, but this is by far really bolstering it into its own entity of what the expectations are. And there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of BCA compliance and getting the right certifications to be able to look at this data and retention and records requests to the public is a huge thing, and what has to get redacted and what doesn't, and that all get handled by that position.
All right. Any questions about the position description?
I'll make a motion to approve the part-time police administrative assistant job description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to the revised administrative assistant job description. Letter G.
So I kind of indicated earlier, because it made more sense giving that what the changes were, but basically what those changes I indicated were taking from the deputy clerk position and sliding over to this. So the main takeaways are that first point of contact, having the callers, with the new phone system, redirecting all the calls where they need to go, utility billing, permit processing, and that communication component, amongst other just clerical things in nature that the position's already doing. So that's kind of the essential functions of that.
All right. Any questions for City Administrator Evans on the administrative assistant job description? If not, we need a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the city center position description.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to letter H, approval of revised deputy clerk job position.
Again, indicated what this would be taking, doing more higher level of work and really taking on the entire kind of human resources function for the city, which takes a lot of time, and then being able to assist more with the treasure duties and kind of that reconciliation component, and then also this position would be managing the assessments like they've always done. but then also doing the digital document, things that I kind of noted on earlier, things that we're not doing. So again, freeing up those kind of lower level tasks to the admin position, then that frees up time here, and then focus on other things. So any questions on that, I can certainly answer them
All right.
more.
If there's no questions, I look for a motion to approve the revised deputy clerk job description.
I'll make a motion to approve revised deputy clerk job description.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to reports of departments and organizations. First off, we have planning and zoning report from Mr. Block, who is not here tonight.
Yep, he's got his annual March township meeting tonight, so he was not able to attend.
All right. Didn't leave you with anything?
It would probably have been just the update that he was able to find someone for that recruitment effort to fill that vacant position in Planning and Zoning Commission.
All right. All right, thank you. Moving on to the liquor store report. Ms. Bickla, how are we doing?
Good evening. Our February 2025 sales were $79,236.23. Our January gambling was $6,457.96. February CNN sales were $758.63. And below you can see the revenue sources broken down for the month of February. Off-sale THC is going well. It keeps growing each month, so that's a plus. In February, we had live music, we had a soup contest, and we had a pfeffer tournament. All those went over very well. March events and updates, we had live music by Todd Yindra this past weekend. St. Patrick's Day celebration is coming up this weekend. We are starting with the Lee Center Fire Department, we're starting horse racing. And that'll be on Saturday, March 22nd at 4 p.m. And we'll also have live music by Gary West that day on Saturday, March 22nd. Otherwise, just kind of trucking along. Our technology isn't the best yet, but we're working on that, and each day is hopefully getting better, so. Yes, sir?
Question, if you can answer this, with the fire department horse racing, can, Lee Center municipal employees partake in that, since it's gambling?
I will double check that, but when we went over it, I was told we could.
Okay.
Not when we're on the clock, but if we're off the clock. So like if I was not punched in, I could do that. But I will double check with Joe Holitsky and everybody.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And whether that's an illegal or not, there's a public perception there. In my viewpoint, if you're an employee doing that, there might be some
Correct.
issues with that as well.
Yep, I don't allow my employees to gamble anything, so.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
yeah. Any other questions or concerns?
You got enough staff ready for the St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, I think so. It'll be fun.
You'll be inside.
what you
Yeah,
wanna
I
call
think
it.
it'll be busy, so.
That's what you want to call it.
Awesome, thank you
Thank you
guys.
so much. You have a good night, Ms. Bickla. All right, police report, Chief Overend.
Good evening.
Hello again.
Police report for February. One correction I want to add to this is the arrests. Should add another 3 onto there that were missed when this was done, the first go-around. Anyways, we had 178 calls for service in the month of February. That's up about 28% over last year. And our miles patrolled were about 1,900, which is up at 9% over last year's. The new part-time officer started training. He's got his 7th day in today. He's doing well. He's meeting a lot of the community. I've heard a couple times tonight people that met him and really enjoy him. And that's what I have tonight.
Is he enjoying it?
Yes, he
Good.
loves it.
Good.
He's new. He likes it.
Good, that's what we want.
Mitch, I have one question and might go with Dan here as well, but do we have any signage indicating where to find the police station?
Yeah.
'Cause the other day I walked out of the post office. Somebody was asking where it was at, and I had to tell them how to get up the street to find it.
Yeah, the signage is on the old police department door, and it gives the address to drive up there.
But as far as like street signs or anything?
No.
Have we ever thought about that, pointing in that direction, or?
Suppose that's something we could work with, Public Works on. I don't think the original had signage, did they?
Yeah, we had a sign over the
We had an
door,
overhang.
Just over the door.
over the door, and on the well, I guess the window. You got it on the window at least.
Yeah.
Or on the door, there's the,
I know Dan and I discussed in the past of putting a sign in the yard up there, but I guess I was thinking more of, you were talking about putting them on Cordova or something for signs leading the post office, but there should be something in the front.
Yeah, I'm just kinda thinking,
Yeah.
well, you know, they're downtown here asking, you know, and if they think like hospitals, always like a hospital sign to tell you where you go to find a hospital, it makes sense to have a sign.
I don't know if I've ever
I haven't ever
seen
seen
that.
I just saw one in Maui, said police department that way,
well, don't,
but not around here.
don't ask my wife. She saw where they draw a blue line from City Hall down the center of the road to the police department. And she thought it was a great idea, and I said, absolutely not.
No.
I mean, the hospital,
Albert
that's
Road.
the, the H symbol, but
Right.
I don't
I've
think
never
I've seen one
police
for.
department.
I think if we put something in the front yard, like
think that would
we
help.
discussed.
Yeah, because you could see that from Cordova then too.
Yeah, something that would.
Yeah.
Just a red strobe on top would be good.
Big neon pink
Yeah,
sign.
you would like that until it's shining
Yeah.
in your windows.
It's supposed to help.
How was your part-time staff? Are you staffed?
Where I wanna be right now.
Okay. I was just thinking, because it's getting close to
Summer?
graduation of some schools getting close.
Oh, for law enforcement, criminal justice? Yeah, we're always open to take, I believe my post is still up on post board.
Okay.
It's been there since I started 18 months ago, and we've had one inquiry from it.
What is the name of the new officer that's training? right
Luke
now?
Wilson,
Luke Wilson, where's he from?
Lee Sewer area,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And the light situation, that's,
Well, that went on hold with the snow, and it kinda goes on hold when we get the cold, but I know Kevin's generated, well, I don't know how many he generated for the month of February, which is pretty good to generate ICRs for blight in February that aren't related to snow removal. So, I don't know how many I don't see it on here right now, but I know that he did generate some.
What are consequences for that, for Blake Town?
So when we serve them, we usually, well, I shouldn't say serve. Kevin will normally make contact with them.
Okay.
Say, Mr. Doe, you gotta clean up X, Y, and Z. He'll photograph it. He'll give him 2 weeks. I don't wanna say serve him. They'll go over what's expected. And we expect progress to be made, but it's hard to tell somebody that spent 2 years collecting garbage to get rid of it all within the 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, Kevin goes back and he either closes out the ICR, photographs the end product, and I close everything out on my end, or he discusses what they've done so far and what they need to continue to do, weather permitting this time of year, and take it from there. If they refuse to cooperate, or they're too slow to cooperate and they're just dragging their feet, we can send it off for City Attorney Miranda review, and we can usually get a little bit more grip that way.
Okay.
So far, since we started in October, November last year, we haven't had to go the route of Mr. Moran yet, but I foresee that happening.
Okay.
They took the winter off.
Oh, sure.
And Kevin's approach is spot on in my viewpoint, because it's just the act of, like you said, we're just trying to gain compliance. That stuff's accumulated over years, and it's just, hey, getting out of the car, hey, just so you know, this has been brought to our attention, this was a complaint, these are the standards, and just really trying to work with people to gain compliance, which I think goes over a lot better than just the initial contact of sending out a blight notice form and, hey, you got 10 days to clean it up. So I think you're liable to get a little bit more compliance
Face-to-face is always better.
out of that way.
It's too easy to throw a letter away.
Right, so, and Kevin's real good at that, and he does real good follow-up, so, and I have noticed community members coming and saying that a lot of the issues that they've had before have been cleaned up. So, it's going in the right direction, so.
And just so people are aware, we kind of set a grid when we started this on where we were gonna focus. So I've heard a lot of people ask, well, how come this area got hit, but not, you know, say the west end of town.
Sure.
It's all gonna get covered. It's just with this many houses and this many properties in poor shape, it's a time-consuming effort.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have a good night.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Public Works, Mr. Steinmore, how we doing?
Good evening, everyone.
Everybody came out of the winter
Yes,
storm all right?
yep, I think my crew did a good job. It was
Did
a tough one.
Phenomenal job.
It was a tough one.
Okay.
Anything that got drove on was packed and very hard to get off.
You did a great job.
So, only a few breakdowns, but we got through it. As far as garbage, I talked to Jesse with LJP, and we came up with a citywide cleanup date, which will be Saturday, June 21st, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it will be done like the last couple of years on the west side of the shop on Kilkenny Avenue. We'll have a couple garbage trucks down there and a couple roll-offs, and people will bring stuff to us.
Was there any changes you wanted to make from last year going into this year? Do you think it was all pretty well
I think it went
received?
really well, I think. The way we're doing it is, it works great.
And what items can they all bring?
Anything not hazardous, you know, not appliances, that's the week before. That goes out to the county.
And we do have an informational flyer that we end up putting on Facebook and the website too, and then that says acceptable list of items and unacceptable list of items. So that'll come out there with the dates beforehand.
Is that something we can speak with like the banks possibly about using their, seeing if they post that on their
Yeah, we can see if we
scrolling
can
boards?
put a
That's well noted
flyer.
in that town.
Yep.
Yeah, we can do that. And then with the weather getting nice, I know spring sports will be coming. As soon as weather's permitting, we'll be getting the ball fields ready to go and get those into shape. Other than that, I don't have much else. We did do some jetting this week with the warmer weather. We got a little bit more we're gonna do tomorrow on Cordova. We're working on that, so jetting the sewer system and stuff like that.
The frost is starting to break up quick.
I think it's
Mine let
coming.
loose in our yard yesterday.
Okay,
All my water went gone. I couldn't believe it went that
Yeah.
fast, and it was
Yeah.
deep.
yep. So, other than that, anybody have any other questions?
All right.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
All right, Administrators Report, City Administrator Evans.
Okay, I'll start with kind of some legislative updates here. I had an opportunity to participate on the City Day on the Hill, which was an event that took place last week. But, League of Minnesota Cities puts that on, and it's a spot where any official and or staff member can go and they had this little event at the DoubleTree beforehand where they're talking about kind of their legislative priorities as a league, and you get to hear a couple of different senators and House representatives and their kind of spiel on their stance. And then you get a chance to go to the Capitol and meet with your representatives. And I had an opportunity to meet with our new House representative, Terry Steer, and we had a really good conversation. A couple of the things that I noted in for the new council, this will be new for you, but this is things that we've talked about in prior years. And kind of the main goals we had is that small cities assistance account that we talked about, where we get direct appropriation funding from the TAA fund, which is a transportation advancement account to fund that, and that's specifically for cities under 5,000 in population. Because we're under 5,000, we don't get direct appropriations from MnDOT under their MSA program. And we never really had a funding mechanism in place that was specifically for transportation. And now back in the 2023 legislative session, they put this in place, but it's constantly getting underfunded. A couple of the funding mechanisms that they have in the TAA account, one was a MnDOT discrepancy, so it was not funded. And last year for the 2024 session, they upped the amount, so we got close to what we were anticipating. But this year, it's kind of falling short again. So it's really advocating to the representative that, you know, any amount of money that we could put towards that TAA fund to ensure that the city gets the appropriate amount of small cities assistance to cover roadway repairs and road maintenance would be a preferable method. So it's continuing to bolster that and come up with creative ways for that funding mechanism for all communities under 5,000 in population. We brushed on zoning preemptive preemption bills, that the legislature has always put down, which is taking away local zoning control. And the thought that, local zoning control should stay with municipalities where we know them best, and then we can really rely heavily on our planning and zoning commissions to make those recommendations that are the unique needs that are not necessarily a one-size-fits-all for the state, which is what the state wants to do. And again, they're all doing this on the sake of affordable housing, but in all the bills that I've read, there's really nothing that says it's more affordable housing, that it's gonna come down to the buyer. If it's a developer coming in, it might save them money, but that's not really getting passed on to the buyer. So it's kind of a sleight of hand, and I've always felt that, and I know other cities out there feel the same way. So really just trying to take an effort to keep that local zoning control. One of the things I also mentioned was continuing to bolster the local government aid that the city gets. We rely on that quite heavily here to get a state appropriation for local government aid, and without having to increase that tax base. So last year in the 2023 legislative session, they tweaked the formula a little bit, which was advantageous for a lot of cities, and it's just to kind of keep that and create that and keep that going and not try to take away from that fund, because we heavily rely on that. The other thing that was really interesting that's getting talked about right now in legislative session is Senate File 285 and House File 192. And this is what I would call the MnDOT project assessments. So historically, MnDOT, and this reigns true to us because we're gonna have our Highway 99 project coming through town in 2029 timeframe. This is the idea of taking away that assessment component from MnDOT to be able to not assess their portion of the project back on local cities. So right now, when they'll come through, they'll do their project, but then there's gonna be, a 5% assessment on sidewalks. There's gonna be some other things that are gonna be assessed back to the city as a part of their project, which they have control over. So there's a bill right now getting tossed through committee that basically would take that appropriation away, and it would put more on the MnDOT to be able to use their trunk highway funds, if it's a trunk highway, to pay for those assessments and not push that back on the local authority, which is great. We do get some parameters on what we think of the project, but at the end of the day, it's still the state of Minnesota, and it's their project. So that's something I'm closely monitoring, and advocated our support on that, because assessments, not just in this community, but in other communities, can be very high, and it's on their timeline, so sometimes it always doesn't jive. And then we just kind of touched on some future bonding needs if that assessment bill were to not kind of pass. That if we're looking at that assessment for underground utilities and that assessment, we might be looking somewhere in the vicinity at now around 400, maybe 450,000 to pay for that. So that's depending on how this plays out. If that goes through or not, that might be something that we're gonna bring up in next. Several meetings down the years here, if that's something that, we want to advocate up on Capitol Hill. So that's kind of my legislative updates. So it's a very busy time right now. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of bills that get introduced, and we just try to stay apprised of what's going on. And I tell you, I'm really happy that we joined the Minnesota, the Small Cities Association, because their CAP does a really good job informing us small cities of what's going on, what to pay attention to, and kind of, what do we need to be talking to our legislators about that are going to directly affect cities under 5,000 in population. So that's been really good, but there's a lot of bills that get introduced up there, and a lot of back and forth. Had opportunity to talk to Web Construction president, who is now going to be taking over the account solely, and we're not going to be working with the project manager that we worked on for the last almost, in 2 weeks, going to be 6 months. He also felt that this project was an embarrassment, and he's trying to hold on to what little reputation he has as far as this project goes, and try to do right by us and get it done. So tentatively, we've got Thursday, St. Peter Glass coming in to put the glass in, and then he had indicated that they should be wrapped up by the end of next week. Obviously, I'm not going to hold my breath to that, because time and time again, we've been let down with false deadlines, but the project manager is no longer on the project, and now it's the president of the company that's taking it over. So we'd have a couple of issues as far as craftsmanship goes in my office where they butted up the two walls and there's a slight deviation. And by the time it got caught and fixed, it's going to be pretty invasive, and I don't want to necessarily pull the trigger to do it maybe 100% the right way. So we're going to talk about concession agreements that they're going to come down on that bid price, and that should be to me tomorrow on some ideas on what they're going to bring down that bid cost for, to not have to be so invasive to again redo it and again push us off again from our timeline. Because I mean, we're already at 6 months. We put staff off 6 months of being in their spaces. You know, it's. I told him I was living a nightmare. I really did. I just said I just can't believe a company runs this way, and all he can do is try to save what little reputation he has left and wrap up the project, and we'll go our separate ways. So that's kind of that update. And then Thursday night, I'll be attending the County Vision 2020-50 part for just the cities portion of that. So that's where they're going to talk about just specifically to cities, to talk about what their current land use plans are and what their proposed land use plans are, if they had comprehensive plans, which we did. Ours is old, but we have one nonetheless. And we're going to kind of have a roundtable discussion to talk about the city's component in LeSueur County, and then with Bolton and Mink. So looking forward to that meeting on Thursday. So myself and then Planning and Zoning Official Corey Block will be in attendance for that.
Awesome.
Yeah. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions for City Administrator Evans? Nope. Awesome. All right, moving on to other business for tonight, council reports. Does anybody here have anything?
I do not.
No. Just one thing, make sure you keep an eye on your emails. The end of the month, this month should be the LeSueur County officials meeting in, I believe it was talked about having it in LeSueur. I don't know for sure if they've found a place yet, but make sure you keep your eyes out on your emails for that.
I don't have a date yet either.
It'll be Wednesday, the last Wednesday.
Oh, last Wednesday?
The last Wednesday of the month. Sorry, my fault on that.
Perfect.
What is the-
26th.
26th?
26th, yep.
Yep. So, and that'll all be, the itinerary will all be in there and everything, so. All right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.